Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show, and I've got one of my picks to talk about today in Abitibi metals, and I'm very bullish on copper. What I have a challenge is finding a lot of good copper exploration projects. Now, I currently have a couple of copper development companies in McEwen Mining and Alta Copper, but I'm struggling to find a lot of good explorers. And that's why I'm happy to have Jonathan on the show today because they have an exceptional copper project exploration, and it's in Quebec, which is one of the best jurisdictions on the planet for mining and exploration for that, and the geoscience of exploration. And uh, they tick my boxes when it comes, especially with high grade. I love high grade in any metal. So, Jonathan, thank you very much for joining me today.
No, thanks for having me again.
So, you recently started up your drilling again. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, we're excited to get back. We started in August. We recently brought on a second drill. So I think we last spoke in May, and that was coming off the back of our Q1 drill program. We drilled about 13,500 meters for focus on the first 300 meters vertical. And really focused around our thesis of looking at the low-hanging fruit and what we believe is an open pit thesis to complement the high-grade underground. But since our conversation in May, what we did is we modeled out the Q1 drill program. We recognized and are really confident in our thesis now of this being more of a hybrid system versus just a strictly VMS. So, and that's led through to us modeling through the summer and now coming back to the market fully funded for 16,500 meters of drilling between now and Christmas. We have two drills turning as of today. We may go up to three at some point next month. We'll see how our meterage is going. But I think the key thing is we've done a lot this year. I guess to the following that didn't catch our first interview, we optioned this asset off of the Quebec government subsidiary SOQUEM in November 2023, and we got into drilling right away. But so really, we've positioned the company very well for this phase two drill program, which is going to focus on testing the mid-level resource. So Q1, we drilled up to 300 meters vertical. So really, that's where the majority of well space drilling is located on the deposit. As soon as you go from 300 down, it's very spotty drilling. Now, SOCOM did do the important job of confirming the continuity to depth down to about 800 meters vertical with what was a hole that hit about 5% copper equivalent over 7 meters. But there was nothing like barely any drilling 300 meters up dip. But really, that mid level resource area, we believe the higher grade trends that we've been able to model in the first 300 meters vertical within that more so structurally controlled orogenic copper gold stringer zones.
Oh, wow.
We see those high grade trends, especially three as of now throughout the deposit. So that's kind of the focus is building quality tonnage in the mid level, following up on these higher grade controls of the deposit. Then, so mid level and then the Western Plunge. And the Western Plunge is where we started the program. We drilled two deeper holes, which was first 236 that was drilled down to about 1,400 meters of planned depth. It's about 1,000 meters vertical. And we announced visuals on that hole. We hit about 85 meter zone, what we expect about 15 meters of higher grade mineralization. But that is now the deepest intercept in the project's history, pending results that we believe we'll be able to announce before this month is ended. So really, maybe I'll pause there. So really, to summarize, we're back drilling. Our thesis is different. We proved out the shallow potential in the first quarter. Now it's about mid-level drilling at depth, trying to prove out this Western plunge, which we think is key to helping develop this into about a 30 to 50 million ton target. So a lot there, but maybe I'll pause there if you have any questions.
Yeah, well, you brought up a few really good ones. And the first one I'd like to point out is that We often hear about Quebec being a very mining friendly jurisdiction, and Soquium is a key part of that. They are a government funded or government agency. I always mix that up, Jonathan. Which is it? They're government funded or government? What is Soquim?
So they are a private company that's solely financed by Investment Quebec. So
Okay.
they're essentially a government financed exploration arm. And it really speaks to another thing of why Quebec is the top province in Canada, because without the hard work and financial support from the government, we wouldn't be in the excellent position that we are in today. Also, being able to develop and be the first public company to develop what is a significant polymetallic deposit. So really, there's no other province that has the support like Quebec does in Canada. So really, when you're developing deposits in the province, they come at a premium. And I think as since we
They
spoke, we had
may
gold break. Yeah.
they may come at a premium, but they
Mhm.
come with exceptional work. So
Yeah.
is it really a premium? Because when you have a group like Soquium, what they are extremely well known for is the high quality of work that they do. And what
Hmm.
their goal is to, like a lot of geological surveys do. I live in Mexico, and the
Hmm.
Mexican Geological Survey has always been really active in that. But what
Hmm.
they're trying to do is they're trying to enhance projects to then bring in private company or public company investment to
Yes.
then advance the project.
Yeah.
And that's what your project is all about.
Yeah, no, exactly. When I said premium, I mean so more so a premium to the end user. So when the producers are looking for new development opportunities, opportunities like in a province like Quebec, I think are going to get more and more valuable as we see political st instability in what is where the majority of copper supply is coming from as of today. And like we just got back from Beaver Creek, and what I can say and what I'm excited about is it does seem like the M&A is starting to pick up. It looks like the producers are starting to look at opportunities more and more. And I do believe that we fit that demand of we have a significant starting resource that's open at depth, long strike. We're now fully financed out to Q1 of 2026. We're going to be drilling another 36,000 meters and really help deliver, and I believe deliver on our thesis of how do we grow this to becoming something economic that the majors will want to get involved with. So no, and back to I guess your point with the connection with Mexico, it is similar in that respect. They're doing the technical work, and their real mandate is to help show build up usually more so early stage opportunities, but to really build up these properties that you can then raise money off of and really build a solid business around. And like just like B26, we were able to acquire that and within 5 months raise about $22 million. And you can't do that unless you have an asset that is a strong asset that has a strong database that allowed us to start drilling right away. So certainly we'll always be very grateful to SOCOM and the opportunity that they gave us at B26.
And what is quite exciting about that is the open pit target is very high grade.
Yeah, yeah, no, when you look at like when you look at a traditional base metals copper focused open pit, I don't have the exact stats off of me, but I think like the average grade is like point 0.3 to maybe point 0.6 on the high end when you look at the majority
That
of
would be a
copper
high
supply.
grade porphyry.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So
And
so sir,
also,
yeah.
they're usually in remote, high in the Andes. They're not sitting beside infrastructure in Quebec.
No, exactly. So I certainly when we're looking at the resource as of today at 3% copper equivalent, this is at the certainly a high grade polymetallic opportunity. And really there's not that many around. You look across Canada, there might be one other that's controlled by a junior. couple in the US, but that's why you look at the valuations and something that we brought out in our recent corporate presentation. You look at the disconnect in our valuation and what our peers are trading at, and I do think that we're well positioned as we deliver to see a re-rating. Um, and I think part of that, like a common question at Beaver Creek, is why are you so cheap compared to some of these competitors? And I think it's part of we started November. We started last year at 5 million market cap. We were up as high as 65, 70. We've consolidated down to about 45. And I think people also want to know that this isn't just a one-off. And they're like, do we have a serious plan to develop this? And I think that we do. And I think we are starting to build credibility from that between the team that we've assembled, the financing that we brought in, now having a strong pipeline of value creation between now in the beginning of 2026 that we're fully funded for. And we've done this, and the copper price over the summer has consolidated amongst what has still been a very illiquid junior mining market. And one of the things that we've been able to offer is we have maintained pretty high liquidity at around 400,000 or 500,000 shares per day trading volume. And that's hard to find in the marketplace as of now. So it's both a blessing and a curse. It detracts profit taking. But at the same time, if we're able to highlight and deliver on our thesis of where we see the value creation coming from B26, we just think that this is a short-term opportunity before we continue to expand and re-rate with the company.
Well, that short-term retail action, we see that across the board, but something that I'm following very closely is like the M&A activity. Not over the summertime, BHP and Lundin made an offer to take over Filo for a project that is up at Base Camp Everest for
Mhm.
elevation for 4.4 billion or 4.5 billion Canadian dollars. And, this speaks volumes to how eager the miners are to find those new deposits that can replace the old ones.
Well, exactly. And also as well, and that's a good example with BHP, but you look at Barrick, you look at some of the other major producers, and a lot of them are wanting copper, gold. They're like Agnico in the Timmins region just made an investment in nickel. So I think part of the market now is looking at not just gold
By
opportunities,
the
but
way, Agnico Eagle has a project about a half an hour from my house that
Mhm,
they're in a joint venture with Tech on, which is a
mhm.
copper project, San Nicolas.
Yeah, and Agnico Eagle has been one of the best operators over the last 10 years. And it's not just gold mining, it's mining in general. The concepts that they can take from Detour, which is 30,000 ton per day operation from Malartic, those are concepts that can be taken to base metals operations. So I think it's a trend that we're starting to see. We've seen it with Agnico, we've seen it with Barrick, we're seeing it with Newmont. So I think the demand and the shift will be going from just being known as gold mining producers to just being miners. And they'll start to rival the BHPs, the Freeport McMoran. And I think that's what helps position us in such a good uh, with such a good opportunity that we do have both the copper, gold, the zinc, the silver. And this is a starting footprint of about a 1.6 kilometer strike length of what in the Abitibi, you look at the average, and it's not a promotional, well, maybe it's a promotional statement, but you look at the average deposits in the Abitibi, you look at the strike length on the surface, and on average, they're about 3 to 4 times the depth when you look at the strength of these systems with similar alteration signature. So that's where, and as I mentioned in our last press release, because I had some concern from our shareholders of, well, you're drilling 1,400-meter holes, this is really deep. But in the Abitibi, this isn't deep. These deposits go 4 or 5 kilometers down, and
And
some
they're
of the,
cash making machines.
well, exactly. You look at LaRonde on the Cadillac break. And Larone was a polymetallic, and some of the best gold grades were in their zones at depth. Some of their best zones had no superficial expression above 800 meters vertical. But the strength of these systems, you never know where they can go. So that's also, I think we mentioned last time we talked about a bit about a gravity survey, but we're doing gravity, we're doing EMT, we're doing a deep focus VTEM because besides the main deposit, we want to see, well, where's the larger scale potential extensions off? Is there other parallel lenses? We've also better evaluated since we spoke the overall 8 kilometer trend to the northwest. we have we've identified in the gravity one standalone
Yeah,
target
now you
uptrend.
reminded me of
Yeah,
something we talked about because there had been wide space gravity done on that,
yeah.
but you've went and filled that in, which is going to give you better resolution. And something else that's really important that I learned from my mentor in geophysics, which was he was the world exploration manager for Anglo. And what he always told me is that you have to make sure the magic is working. And what he
Hmm.
meant by that is there's geophysical anomalies everywhere around the world on every piece of ground there is. But what you need to determine is do you have the right geophysical survey that is backed up with drill holes? And then that tells you that in his terms, the magic is working. And
Hmm.
then you can apply that all around where you are, which is crucially important in a VMS deposit because they're always found in clusters. So if you kind of have the geophysical signature that you know works with the truth machine is telling you it's working, it can be
Hmm.
applied elsewhere on your property.
Yeah, exactly. And in what I would say is still a tough junior mining market, we have to be trying to show the large scale blue sky catalysts. And that's really when we look at our budget for the year, when we look at the budget for next year, it's how do we deliver that high impact exploration? And I think w really our thesis with some of this high impact drilling at B26, the mid level, really duplicating those high grade trends at depth where we see the potential to build a lot of tonnage. Then looking, okay, what is like, how deep is this system and how do we build up credibility for this being a multi-kilometer depth system? So we're working on that. But as you said, the B20, the Salbei mine that produced 53 million tons of similar polymetallic material over 20 years is 7 kilometers to the northwest on the same contact. So, and that trend in between has been largely undrilled. A big reason is the
I'm
levels
told
of
I
over.
interrupt
Yeah,
people too much, Jonathan, but
no,
it's
feel
because I
free.
get excited about what I hear and then I want to expand on what I hear. And when
Hmm.
you talk about Selby being 50 some million tons, there's two things that brings up to me. One is that in VMS deposits, you can have anywhere from a few million tons to the monsters that are over 100 million tons. And so having one in that 53 million is a very sizable VMS deposit. But then what you're also bringing up that why I had to interrupt you is because when you are in a cluster of VMS deposits, often what one tells you about size potential and grade potential has a way of playing itself out throughout the cluster.
No, like you're exactly right. And the thing, it's like why people could say, well, if there's a potential for clusters, why hasn't it been found? And the big difference
It
between
has been. You,
well, in this direct area. Now,
yes,
when you look at the Cadillac break, Val-d'Or, Rouen, Noranda, and you look at the amount of deposits found, you can't drive 5 minutes without seeing the remnants of another mine or drill operation. But that area of the belt has a lot less overburden. So there, like a lot of these outcrops on surface, it was a lot easier to find these VMS deposits that are in the area. So the one challenging thing of, but also the opportunity of the B26 area is we do have uh, on the western portion of the deposit 10, 15 meters of overburden. On the eastern portion, it drops down a bit from there. But again, The South Bay mine was an open pit. It wasn't it's not unmanageable levels of overburden. But if there wasn't that, then there probably would have had numerous VMS pods found along this contact. So it's a blessing in the fact that we get to take this opportunity forward, and a curse that it takes a bit more time to develop these quality targets outside of this main footprint. But that's why we've combined gravity, an inversion on top of the gravity. We are looking at the limited drilling property wide to combine the geology and the downhole gravity that was done. We're doing EMT that can go down 1,500 to 2,000 meters vertical over the deposit to look at the signature and also any trends at depth. We're doing a VTEM that can go down to about 600 meters vertical to see if we can identify any conductors that we cut through the noisy overburden to look at these targets at depth and see if there's something uptrend or any extensions off the historical Saube mine, because we do have the border of the mine. So it's another high priority area that we do want to look at. So it's a lot of different pieces that I think will come together to show why this is such an exciting opportunity. So we've been working hard behind the scenes besides, and we've been expanding our team because there's not many opportunities like this out there. And you look at it, like I'd say one what we think is a comparable within Canada, foreign mining. They've recently raised $350 million with Agnico Eco taking 10%. So the demand in the marketplace is there. They're a 42 million ton resource as of today. They've made a discovery at their Tesla zone, which was again a down dip extension of the system, something that we're targeting at B26. But it shows you, with them now having a market cap over 1.3 billion, these systems when have a lot of demand in the marketplace. And that's what we need to continue to do is we're developing our thesis. How can this be a target? We have the Salbe mine next door that was a very large scale deposit that, to your point, there's different size categories of VMS targets. We have the history of these being very large systems, and we're even the recent holes that we drilled at depth, my geologist can do it much more justice, but we do see even clearer comparisons on that deeper drilling direct to South Bay. So are we seeing a change in the system at depth? What does that mean? Also, we see better indications of gold at depth. Hopefully that is confirmed with our results, but a lot of exciting pieces that I think really come together with a very serious value proposition and something that is very unique in the exploration space, especially within Quebec.
So I made some statements earlier about clusters of VMS deposits and the similarities you can get in a cluster between the grade and the size. And just in basic non-geologist terms, why that happens is a VMS is a volcanogenic massive sulfide deposit. And so this is pumped up by volcanoes from very deep. And so when you are literally right beside each other, if the fluids that the volcanic event that caused the one deposit, it causes more deposits. And generally in a field, where you find one, you find more, and when you find big ones, you usually find other big ones, and where you find grade, you usually find other, because it's all the same plumbing or not, it's all the same source heat engine that then makes its way up through the plumbing into these surface deposits or near surface deposits. So
Yeah,
that's where those comments are generated from. This isn't pie in the sky sort of stock promotion. This is based on long-term geological study that goes into these kind of things.
yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. And also, looking at our starting resource and what's been drilled to depth and what is the size and scale of taking an infill consistency factor and what type of tonnage could we see if that is infilled and we're able to demonstrate the continuity. So I think it's something that there's there's no guarantees, but it's not grassroots exploration. This is something that is modeled, that we have a plan to develop and a thesis that we're looking to test. But I do think that we're going to be in a good position by the end of the year to answer some of these important questions and that should be able to support the large scale expansion potential of it. And also we back to the grassroots like property wide. So we'll be drilling property wide targets as definitely in the first quarter. We may be in a position to drill a couple before Christmas, but really trying to make a standalone discovery outside of B26.
Now, you also brought something up early in our conversation that I really has me excited. So, in addition to these VMS deposits, folks, that are volcanogenic events, you've talked about orogenic mineralization. So, orogenic deposits, you kind of need a few things to make sense with those. You need these really old rock packages like the Greenstone Belt. And then you need some structures that are cracks in the earth that allow the metals bearing fluids to then make their way up towards the surface. Now, when it comes to orogenic gold or orogenic systems, they generally have very deep roots. And this brings up what you were talking about is that if you have these VMS deposits and then you have secondary mineralization coming in, or whichever way it was historically, I don't, which one was first and which one was second, I think we'll leave that to your geologists and
Hmm.
your in-depth. But when you have these VMS deposits, and then
Hmm.
you have this secondary mineralization of orogenic nature.
Hmm.
This is tremendously exciting because that's where you could see the pumping of high grade gold into the system that could extend down kilometers.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a great summary, and that's why we're quite excited about it. It is really rare to see what we now call a hybrid VMS system, and where we have the copper gold zone that we are from our modeling this summer and continuing to drill is more structurally controlled. We then have the parallel massive sulfide, more typical VMS zinc silver that runs parallel. But then there's changes. It's a unique system that we're still def defining and really defining, refining the model. And it's something I was talking to my geologist today. We have a new graphic that we're preparing for some of our technical and site visits that are coming up. So I think we'll be able to provide more from our technical following, more of the trying to define what exactly it is. But I think, as you said, when you have this combination, sometimes it can lead to more gold upside, and that's something that we're hoping to target in the drilling. But something that I think we're going to be able to bring out a better understanding. Certainly, with some of our more technical discussions coming up, it is of a priority to try to define exactly what we're working on. But you continue to refine it through the drill bit. So, but lots of catalyst to come on that.
Well, each time you bring up a new technical topic, you get my excitement built up some more because of I'm not just an average guy that does videos on mining. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had some of the best mentors that one could ask for in geophysics, geochemistry, and geology. And I've studied this stuff to the nth degree. In fact, I spent a lot of my career in diamonds, which are also volcanogenic events. And I am a co-author of a paper on the importance of unique diamond indicator minerals and their importance in exploration. So I didn't just fall off the turnip truck, folks.
Hmm.
I've been doing this a long time. And what you brought up now that gets me really excited is when you talk about the zonation of grade inside of a VMS deposit. So earlier I mentioned San Nicolas, that is a joint venture here in Mexico between Teck and Agnico Eagle. And what is interesting about that is that they're almost equal in size, a zone that is zinc and silver, and below that is the gold and copper portion of the VMS deposit. So generally how this works, folks, is the further you are away from the heat engine, you get in a VMS, you get silver and zinc. As you get closer to the source, the heat engine, if you will, you get copper gold zones. And so when you just mentioned the potential for zinc and silver, and then copper and gold not far away, this kind of gives you that temperature column, if you will, folks, that you're getting closer to the heat engine. But don't get me wrong, sometimes that zinc silver can be just as important as the gold and copper, as is the case here in this San Nicolas deposit that is only about 30 or 40 miles from where I live in central Mexico. And so that's really exciting from a VMS perspective, is that you're seeing that entire temperature gauge, if you will, from distal silver zinc to closer to the heat engine, which is your copper gold.
No, that's I got to look up that development because that it sounds very interesting because it is unique to find these type of deposits, and they are quite hard to find, especially with the grades that they can carry and the size and scales of these routing systems. Uh,
Well, you'll
that
definitely want to do your research on San Nicolas because it's
mm,
a hundred and I think about 110 million tons.
wow,
Um, and uh, and half of it is in zinc and silver, zinc, lead, and the other half is in copper and gold.
interesting. And that's the one. So the zinc silver actually has a lead credit. It's low, but it is something that we've started to model to look at the controls. But yeah, and like even today, it's we have a distinct silver zinc zone parallel, but in some of this deeper drilling that we're doing right now, we're seeing it up top. So there we're still early on, and where we're positioning drilling to the north, drilling south, we also have the potential where we're set up to hit some new lenses that are further north that haven't had coverage before. So you never know when you start to drill these out. I think the key thing is you look at the alteration signature, you look at the size and scale, and that's a big thing that I think the key players will look for, the majors.
And
A lot
folks,
of,
the
yeah,
reason that they look for that is when the metals bearing fluids interact with the country rock, it chemically alters that country rock. And so when you have a big alteration zone, there's this comment in mining that's been as old as mining, and it is that big systems leave big footprints. And when they're talking about the big footprint, they're talking about a big alteration zone that is indicative of a big mineralizing system below it.
no, it's a great way to put it. Um, and it's something that, yeah, and you have lower grade, you have higher grade trends within it, but the main thing is that signature is there. And the distribution of metals will flux within that system. But the fact that you have that underlying system is why, as that's what brings us the confidence to drill this mid-level, drill it at depth, because so far the modeling has held up well. I think the 336, the wedge, the next deeper hole, and also where we've positioned those holes, if successful, if the assays come back as we hope that they will, it's also very well positioned for directional drilling so that we're able to take those deeper holes make the most out of it. And really, as we talked about last time, really taking a cost efficient exploration approach because like we're to really get as much out of our money as possible. So it's no, I think it's a very exciting time to to have an update to the story because I think really it's been a quieter summer where we had to really digest the first quarter of drilling. We spent 2 months of modeling to really hone in on our phase two targets because the worst thing you can do is drill at depth and miss.
Yes,
So we wanted to spend the time and put in the homework that increased our likelihood of really building up credibility on this model. And I think visually, from what we've announced so far, we've been able to deliver on that. We're within, I'd say, 1 to 2 weeks of having results. And I do appreciate my shareholders' patience. We did make the decision to drill these deeper holes out of the bat, which took longer to produce assays, but now that we've done those two deep holes, the one wedge, we now have two drills on the mid resource that are drilling 600 to 800 meter holes. Once we get this initial batch of results out, it's going to be a lot more consistent because we do have a pipeline of shallower holes that are coming through into the lab. So from a news flow standpoint, our interview is perfectly timed because I do think it's going to be a lot more exciting second half of October into Christmas and the new year, and we won't have much time that we're not going to have a drill turning between now and probably May of next year.
that's awesome. And as you're describing all this, I sometimes I formulate predictions of geology in my mind while I'm doing these interviews. And I think what you're going to find is that your geophysics that you've confirmed with your drill holes are going to hold up in your other targeting. And I also think that when you're looking at alteration zones, what you're going to find is that closest to the structures, you're going to have the highest intensity of alteration. And
Mhm.
that's where you're going to find your best grades.
Yeah, no, it's I think you're completely right, and I think for our next call, I think you'd really enjoy having Martin involved in the conversation because I think
Yeah.
it would be good to get an update from him as well, and I think that you and Martin could speak a whole different language and really help piece together the big picture of B26.
Well, you're giving me enough evidence to get excited about John because I can tell you're talking to some smart geological guys because you're hitting on all the things that get me really excited about a VMS system and the zonation of grade, the alteration, and the secondary this concept of the orogenic system has me very excited as well because those are also structurally controlled, and maybe that's why you probably will see some very intense alteration that is indicative of both the potential for orogenic as well as high grade VMS as well. And I'd love to
Yeah,
talk to Martin about all that.
yeah, no, definitely, no, that would be good because I
But
think
this,
it's
go ahead.
yeah. No, I think it's good timing. We're getting close to our initial results out from phase two. Then it'll be continuous. I'd say probably results release every 2 weeks. I think the results of our bigger geophysics assessment will be meaningful if we're able to highlight some really quality targets outside of the B26 footprint and or deeper uh, potential sources of that mineralization that will hopefully light up with some of these deeper seated surveys. Um, and yeah, and I also think when we look at the next 6 months of what I'd like to achieve, I think that the demand from the producers are there. I certainly would like to have an investment over the next year from a major producer to help validate what we're doing at B26. So it's certainly part of our objectives over the next year. So I think it's drilling. We continue to refine our internal updated resource that we're working to try to bring out to the market and really other potential corporate matters that could really help validate what we're working on at B26.
Well, I've written several reports because not only do I have an audience of investors, but I have several mining company people involved and watching my work. And one thing that I've noted is that I believe that the majors want to create themselves to be the partner of choice for the explorers who need that help. And don't be surprised if you start hearing some majors start to get interested in doing a strategic, because if I was running a major and I wanted to be a partner of choice, I could not find a better situation than a high grade system in those old rocks in the Abitibi and in Quebec. And that's something that definitely needs to be thoroughly examined with the truth machine.
Well, I agree. And the other thing that we haven't spoken about is why would they trust us with their capital? They would trust us because we drill at 245 a meter. We spend 16% a year on G&A, 84% goes into the ground. So the majors want to see money go into what will be their end goal. So I think we're also very good managers of capital. We have a great advisory team led by a lot of individuals that have had senior vice president roles with the majors, with Agnico, with Eldorado. Um, we also have great First Nations partnerships within the Picougan community and within where we're working at B26, which is very important as to making sure that we have the collective agreement as to full support from everybody involved to lead this to be something that could have development potential. So I think that it's also uh, people forget about the big picture sometimes, and I think that we're able to we really run the company with our end goal in mind, and that's showing that we can manage capital well, showing that we're allocating capital to the right catalysts that will move the needle in the current marketplace that we're in as of today. So we're excited about all this coming together and
Well,
really
I'm
starting to
really
get
happy
some
to hear
results out.
about that as well, because I am First Nations as myself. I'm from the Cree tribe of Northern Alberta. The Cree tribe extends all the way over to Quebec. One of my good friends is Matthew Kuncum, who is one of the most influential Cree leaders in Quebec. And what I find about the work that mining companies have done with the First Nations in Quebec is a model that should be applied throughout the country, because not only are they're investing and doing the right things with the First Nations, but there's some First Nations youth that are starting to move their way into mining. And it's always been my hope that they keep moving up the ladder, and because they have inherent skills from being on the ground all the way to business. The Cree are very good business people, especially in Quebec, especially with the leadership of people like Matthew Kuncum. So you really are checking off all those boxes, John, and I really am happy to hear about that.
Yeah, no, I no, it's part of how these projects are successful, and you need to have all the pieces at the table, and I think that we're able to do that. We have great government partners, great First Nations partners, great shareholders, financial backing that has given us the opportunity in still a tough junior mining market to be able to develop what I think is a world-class opportunity at B26. So we certainly are grateful for it. And I think that it's an exciting 6 months to a year as we have pretty consistent drilling on the horizon.
Well, good projects have a way of attracting good people and good financing. And there's something else that my old geologist mentor always said to me, and I never forgot it. He said, every project starts out really, really big. And then when you put the truth machine on it, most get really, really small. But the
Mhm.
mines, they get better and better the more drilling you put onto it and the more science you apply to it. And
Mhm.
that's the trend I'm seeing for you, John. And congratulations to you and your team. And stocks go up and down, but projects of merit, they get better and better the more science and drilling you apply to it, and that's a very important indicator to me. And I'm glad to that it's happening for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like it's a volatile market. The main thing is we financed at the right time. We're not at the mercy of the market in terms of taking an over and dilutive financing round. So the main thing is we're able to just execute on our business plan. And as you said, quality assets attract all the pieces that lead to this being a successful operation. So we've been able to accomplish a lot in what is just under a year. It'll be a
Uh,
year November 16th next month. And I think this is just the beginning, and we have a lot to continue with.
Jonathan, there's projects out there that have been around for years and hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent to get to where you are right now in only about a year, with it under your umbrella. Good job.
No, I appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to our next interview where you can bring on one of your rock hounds to talk about rocks with me.
No, that would be great. No, I think it'd be a
Awesome.
really good discussion.
I'm going to close it off. Jonathan, did you have anything to close with, or did we cover most of it?
Well, I think I just appreciate you having me again, and I think I appreciate your listeners and our shareholders because there's thousands of juniors out there, and I appreciate you considering us. As we talked about before our call, I can't guarantee that will be successful, but what I can say is I've myself and the hard work of my team, we've really put the company in a good position for success. And we got to have a bit of luck and we got to have some market forces, but we're excited about what's upcoming.
Awesome. On that note, folks, I wanted to summarize it, and I've touched on some of these subjects already, but just in summary, I'm very bullish on copper. Finding good copper exploration projects is very difficult, which I think is why we're not seeing enough projects in the development stages and why the majors are not able to replace what their old mines with new mines, which is why they're looking down the food chain and cutting checks. And they all want to be in copper because they see where demand is going and they clearly understand where supply is and the weakness of that supply. And these things combined will mean copper goes up. Robert Friedland is talking about it all the time. And it isn't just about him wanting to promote copper. He is giving some advice there, folks, that well, the majors are paying attention to it. We need a price dramatically higher than where it is right now to incentivize the pipeline from exploration through to production and replacing those old mines with new mines to be able to deal with the demand that's coming. And right now, the menu of opportunities in the development stages and in the exploration are very, very tiny. So if you get a stronger market for the price of copper, when investors want to look down the food chain, there's not a big menu from them to choose from. And I think that Abitibi Metals is one that anybody that's interested in exploration for copper should be paying attention to and doing their homework on. On that note, do your homework, speak with your financial advisors. Have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.